Some people thrive on disrespect. They test your patience, push your buttons, and expect you to lose control. That's their game. But here's the truth. Losing your temper means they win. The real power lies in staying calm and delivering a response so sharp, so unexpected, that it leaves them speechless. No yelling, no emotional outbursts, just pure, calculated words that make them regret ever crossing you. In this video, I'll give you powerful comebacks that shut down rudeness instantly. Say these and you'll never feel disrespected again. By the way, if you enjoy deep, thought-provoking insights on Stoicism, self-improvement, and navigating life with wisdom, you'll love my free newsletter. Every Sunday, I share powerful lessons, controversial truths, and practical strategies to help you level up, all for free. Want to join? Sign up using the link below and start receiving value-packed content straight to your inbox every week. And if you're a brand looking to sponsor my content and reach a highly engaged audience, feel free to reach out via my email in the description. Let's create something impactful together. 1. You're entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled to ignore it. This is one of the most underrated power moves you can use when dealing with rude, arrogant, or judgmental people. It's not an attack, it's not emotional, it's just a simple reminder that their words hold zero weight in your life. And trust me, nothing frustrates an egotistical person more than being dismissed. See, the reason rude people talk down to you is not because they want to help you. It's not even because they believe they're right. It's because they want to control the conversation. They want to feel superior, like their opinion is the law and you're just some fool who needs to listen. And when you don't argue, when you don't defend yourself, when you just shrug and move on, it leaves them feeling powerless. The moment I learned this lesson, I used to think I had to prove myself to people. If someone criticized my choices, I'd explain myself. If they mocked something I was working on, I'd try to convince them why it mattered. Big mistake. I remember when I was first starting a big project, one that meant a lot to me. I had spent weeks working on it, staying up late, pushing through challenges and making sacrifices. One day, I told an old friend about it, and he just smirked and said, "That's a waste of time. You really think anyone's gonna care about that?" Old me. I would have argued. I would have listed all the reasons why my project had potential, why I was passionate about it, why he was wrong. But I realized, why was I explaining myself to someone who had never built anything in his life? So instead I just smiled and said, "You're entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled to ignore it." Then I changed the subject, and you know what happened? He had nothing left to say. He expected me to get defensive, to fight for his approval. But by dismissing him completely, I took all the power away from him, and deep down, I know he felt it. Why this response works so well. This comeback is perfect for shutting down rude people because it doesn't give them what they want, your emotional reaction. It makes it clear that they are free to speak, but you don't have to care. You are not seeking their validation. Their words don't shake your confidence. People hate feeling ignored, especially when they're trying to put you down. That's why this response is so effective. It instantly makes them realize that their opinion is irrelevant to you. And that's the worst thing you can do to someone who thinks they're important. When to use this response? When someone mocks your career path or goals, maybe you're chasing something unconventional. People love to say, "That won't work." Just smile and say, "You're entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled to ignore it." When a toxic family member judges your choices, sometimes it's parents, siblings, or relatives who think they have a say in your life. Just remind them, "You're entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled to ignore it." When a coworker belittles your ideas, in the workplace, some people love to act superior. If someone tries to make you feel small, just calmly say, "You're entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled to ignore it," and move on. The hard truth. Most of the people who criticize you aren't doing better than you. They're just loud, and the louder they are, the more insecure they usually feel. They want to control the conversation because deep down, they're afraid they might be wrong. And that's why this response is so powerful. It subtly reminds them that their words mean nothing to you, that you don't seek their validation, that their opinion is just that, an opinion, not a fact. Final thought. There's an old saying, "A lion doesn't lose sleep over the opinions of sheep." And that's the mindset you need. The next time someone rudely tells you what they think about your life, don't argue. Don't defend yourself. Just smile. Say, "You're entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled to ignore it," and move on with your day. Because at the end of the day, your life is yours, and their opinions, completely irrelevant. 2. If I had $1 for every smart thing you said, I'd be broke. This comeback is pure gold because it does two things at once. It sounds playful but cuts deep. On the surface, it might seem like a joke, but the meaning is brutal. You're saying, "You never say anything intelligent," without actually saying it. It exposes their lack of substance. People who are rude often talk a lot but say very little of value. This line reminds them that they run their mouth, but nothing intelligent ever comes out. And the best part, it's hard to respond to. If they get mad, they look defensive. If they try to argue, they're proving your point. It's a checkmate move. How I used this line and shut someone down instantly. I had an old classmate. Let's call him Ryan. Ryan had one personality trait, making fun of people. He wasn't particularly smart, funny, or successful, but he knew how to act like he was. His whole game was about talking louder than everyone else, throwing in sarcastic insults, and making people feel small so he could feel big. One day we were in a group conversation, and I was explaining something, just a simple point, but Ryan, trying to be funny, interrupted, "Oh yeah, because you're such a genius, right?" With that smug tone people use when they think they're the smartest person in the room. Everyone laughed, not because what he said was funny, but because he was loud and confident. And in moments like that, you have two choices. Let them get away with it. Shut them down. So I smiled and said, "Ryan, if I had $1 for every smart thing you said, I'd be broke." Silence. One guy choked on his drink. Someone else said, "Oh damn." And Ryan, he just sat there, shifting in his seat, trying to come up with something, but there was nothing left to say. And that's when it hit me. Loud people aren't always smart people, and if you call them out on it the right way, they crumble. Why this comeback hits so hard? It highlights their lack of intelligence without being outright rude. You're not calling them dumb directly, but you're making it clear that they've never said anything valuable. It flips the power dynamic. Rude people thrive on making others feel smaller. This line throws their own game back at them. It puts them in an unwinnable position. If they argue, they just look even less intelligent. If they stay silent, they admit defeat. Either way, you win. When to use this response? When someone constantly interrupts you with sarcastic insults. If they keep trying to belittle you, shut them down with this line. When a coworker tries to act superior but never contributes anything meaningful. The guy who criticizes everything but has no real solutions. Yeah, he deserves this. When a friend always mocks you but never says anything smart themselves. Some people just exist to take jabs at others. Time to put them in their place. The brutal reality, people who love to mock others usually have nothing valuable to offer themselves. They hide behind sarcasm, thinking it makes them look sharp, when in reality, it just covers up their insecurity. And the best way to deal with them? Expose them. The next time someone who never says anything meaningful tries to act like they're the smartest person in the room, just hit them with, "If I had $1 for every smart thing you said, I'd be broke." Then watch them struggle to come up with a response. 3. I don't argue with people who thrive on disrespect. This isn't just a comeback, it's a statement of power. It tells the other person, "I see exactly what you're doing, and I refuse to engage." Because let's be real, some people aren't looking for a discussion. They don't want an exchange of ideas, a debate, or even a resolution. They just want to stir the pot, belittle others, and make themselves feel superior. These are the types of people who never listen. They just wait for their turn to talk. Turn every disagreement into a personal attack. You could say, "I prefer tea over coffee," and they'll take it as an insult. Act like being rude is a personality trait. They love phrases like, "I'm just brutally honest," when in reality, they're just brutal. So why waste energy? Why argue with someone who doesn't even respect you to begin with? How I used this line and walked away victorious. A while back, I had a co-worker, let's call him Jake. Now, Jake wasn't just rude. He thrived on being disrespectful. It wasn't enough for him to disagree with people. He had to make them feel small while doing it. He talked over people in meetings, shot down ideas without offering any of his own, and loved throwing passive-aggressive insults whenever possible. One day, during a team discussion, I shared a suggestion. Nothing crazy, just an idea to improve a workflow. But before I could even finish my thought, Jake rolled his eyes and said, "Yeah, because you're such an expert, right?" It was condescending, dismissive, and completely unnecessary. Now, a few years ago, I might have taken the bait. I would have tried to justify myself, explain my reasoning, or even snap back. But that day, I wasn't playing his game. So I leaned back, looked at him, and simply said, "I don't argue with people who thrive on disrespect." And then, I went silent. The room went quiet. Everyone was waiting for Jake to respond, but he had nothing. What could he say? If he kept going, he'd only prove me right. If he tried to backpedal, he'd look weak. He sat there fidgeting, trying to come up with a comeback, but there wasn't one. The best part, after that moment, he never tried that nonsense with me again. Why this line is so powerful. It calls out their behavior without engaging in it. You're not insulting them, you're describing them, and that's way more painful. It removes their control. People like this thrive on reactions. When you don't give them one, they lose. It makes them rethink their actions. Whether they admit it or not, you've just put a mirror in front of them. When to use this response? When someone keeps trying to start a fight with you. Instead of feeding their negativity, starve it. When a coworker or boss talks down to you. This response makes it clear you won't tolerate disrespect. When a friend or family member belittles you. Some people think they can get away with it just because they're close to you. Wrong. When a stranger tries to provoke you. Not every battle is worth fighting. Some people aren't even worth acknowledging. The harsh truth. Some people don't argue to solve anything. They argue to win. They argue because they enjoy seeing others get upset. They get a twisted sense of satisfaction from getting under people's skin. So the best response? No response. Instead, drop this line. I don't argue with people who thrive on disrespect. And then walk away. Because the moment they realize they don't have control over you, they've already lost. 4. Your attitude isn't going to get you very far in life. This isn't just a comeback, it's a wake-up call. People who go around being rude, disrespectful, and dismissive think they're winning in life. But in reality, that attitude is a one-way ticket to nowhere. Why this line hits hard. Rude people act like being condescending makes them powerful. They confuse arrogance for confidence. But life doesn't work that way. No one respects a person who treats others like garbage. No boss promotes someone who can't work with others. No one wants to build relationships with someone who always belittles people. And no successful person ever got where they are by running their mouth instead of their brain. So when you say, your attitude isn't going to get you very far in life, you're not just shutting them down, you're exposing their future failure. You're forcing them to realize that their behavior will eventually come back to haunt them. Personal experience. When I used this line and watched it work instantly. A few years ago, I worked with someone who thought being rude was his personality. Let's call him Mark. Mark had a habit of talking down to everyone. If you made a mistake, he'd roll his eyes instead of helping. If you had an idea, he'd shut it down before even listening. He was the kind of guy who thought making others feel small would make him look bigger. One day, he snapped at a coworker during a meeting. Maybe if you actually knew what you were talking about, we wouldn't be wasting time. People were uncomfortable, but no one said anything, because that's what rude people count on. They rely on others staying silent. But I wasn't about to let that slide. So I looked at him and said, "Your attitude isn't going to get you very far in life." The room went silent. Mark smirked at first, trying to brush it off. But then, as the meeting continued, I noticed something. He wasn't as confident anymore. He wasn't laughing. For the first time, he actually looked uncomfortable. Why? Because deep down, he knew I was right. And here's the best part. A few months later, when promotions were announced, guess who got passed over? Mark. Because no matter how skilled you are, if people can't stand working with you, you're going nowhere. Why this line works so well? It forces them to look at the bigger picture. Right now, they might think being rude gives them power. But where is that power leading them? Nowhere. It exposes their own self-sabotage. The truth is, their behavior isn't just annoying. It's ruining their chances in life. It's not an insult. It's a fact. And facts hurt more than insults ever could. When to use this line? When a coworker is rude and condescending, remind them that their behavior will cost them in the long run. When a stranger is being disrespectful, people who act like jerks in public need to hear this. When a family member keeps putting others down, just because they're family doesn't mean they get a free pass. When a friend has a toxic attitude, if they're always negative and dismissive, maybe it's time they hear the truth. Final thought. Some people walk around acting like being rude makes them untouchable, but life has a way of humbling those who think they're better than everyone else. So, next time someone disrespects you, hit them with, "Your attitude isn't going to get you very far in life." Then watch as they realize, maybe, just maybe, they're the real problem. 5. This conversation was over before it even started. This is not just a comeback, it's a verbal checkmate. It's the kind of response that doesn't just shut down an argument, it erases it from existence. It tells the rude person, "You thought you were about to engage in a battle, but I'm not even stepping onto the battlefield." See, disrespectful people thrive on conflict. They want to get under your skin. They want to pull you into an argument because that's where they feel in control. But what happens when you refuse to engage? When you make it clear that their words hold zero value? They lose their power. By saying, "This conversation was over before it even started," you do something incredibly powerful. You strip them of control. You make them feel unimportant. You show them they don't dictate your emotions. And trust me, nothing frustrates a rude person more than being ignored. Why this line hits hard. Imagine a bully pushing someone expecting them to push back. But instead of reacting, the person simply walks away with complete indifference. The bully is left standing there, powerless. That's exactly what happens when you use this line. You remove their ability to engage, provoke, or manipulate. You make them realize their words mean absolutely nothing to you, and that is the ultimate slap in the face. It denies them the satisfaction of an argument. They want a fight, but you refuse to step into the ring. It instantly puts them beneath you. You're telling them, your words are so insignificant, they're not even worth responding to. It keeps your energy intact. Engaging with rude people drains you. This line preserves your peace by ending the conversation before it even begins. Personal experience. How I use this line and shut someone down instantly. A few years ago, I had a co-worker who was constantly negative. Let's call him Jake. Jake was the type of person who would find a way to criticize anything and everything, your ideas, your work, even the way you spoke. And the worst part, he loved to do it in front of others. One day, I suggested a new approach for a project in a meeting. Before I could even finish my thought, Jake smirked and said, "Yeah, or we could just do it the right way instead." I could feel everyone in the room tense up. He was waiting for me to defend myself, to argue, to react. Instead, I calmly looked at him and said, this conversation was over before it even started. And then, I turned back to my work and ignored him. The room went silent. Jake looked completely caught off guard. He tried to save face, but you could tell he was rattled. Why? Because he expected a fight. He expected me to get defensive. Instead, I dismissed him like he didn't even exist. And from that day forward, he never tried that nonsense with me again. When to use this line? When someone is trying to bait you into an argument, you don't owe them your energy. When a co-worker, boss, or acquaintance is being passive-aggressive, shut it down before it escalates. When a family member or friend is being unnecessarily rude, you don't have to entertain negativity. When a stranger insults you for no reason, some people just want attention. Don't give it to them. Final thought. Not every fight is worth fighting. Not every insult deserves a response. Rude people win when they steal your energy, but they lose when you show them how little they matter. So next time someone tries to pull you into a pointless argument, just say, "This conversation was over before it even started." And then walk away while they sit there stunned, realizing they just lost before they even began. 6. Thanks for your input. I'll be sure to forget it immediately. Rude people thrive on control. Their goal is to make you feel small, to rattle your confidence, and to drag you down to their level. But when you respond with this line, you strip them of their power in an instant. Because, let's be honest, most of the time when someone disrespects you, they're not offering anything useful. They're not engaging in a meaningful discussion or giving constructive feedback. No, they're just talking for the sake of hearing themselves talk. And they expect you to take the bait. But instead of taking their words seriously, you do the opposite. You treat them as if they are so insignificant. They're not even worth remembering. That's what makes this comeback so powerful. It acknowledges their effort just enough to dismiss it completely. Why? This phrase works like magic. It makes their words instantly worthless. Disrespectful people want you to carry their words with you, to replay them in your mind, to let them affect your self-esteem. But when you hit them with, "Thanks for your input, I'll be sure to forget it immediately," you're telling them, "You just wasted your breath, and I'm not even going to let your words live rent-free in my mind for more than a second." That's a crushing realization for them. It stops them in their tracks. They expected an argument, they expected anger, they expected you to justify yourself. Instead, you gave them casual indifference, a subtle way of saying, "You don't matter enough for me to engage with." That silence after your response, that's them realizing they just got played. It protects your energy. Some people love drama. They love getting a rise out of others. But your peace of mind is worth more than their nonsense. Instead of engaging in a pointless back and forth, you use this phrase, cut the conversation short, and keep moving forward. How this works in real life at work. Imagine a co-worker constantly shoots down your ideas in meetings, not because they're bad, but because they love being critical. They smirk and say, "That's an interesting take, but let's leave the serious suggestions to the experts." Instead of getting flustered, you calmly reply, "Thanks for your input. I'll be sure to forget it immediately." Then you keep speaking like their words never even existed. That response instantly makes them look foolish in front of everyone. With toxic friends or relatives, a family member makes a snide remark about your career or life choices. "Oh, still chasing that dream of yours? When are you going to get serious about life?" Instead of explaining yourself, defending your choices, or letting their words sink in, you simply smile and say, "I appreciate the comment. It's already erased from my mind." Then you change the subject. They'll feel the sting when they realize you don't care about their negativity. With strangers or online trolls, someone tries to put you down in a public setting or online, throwing an unnecessary insult your way. Instead of getting worked up, you respond with, "Oh wow, you must have really thought that one would land. Thanks for the input. I'll forget it in about 3 seconds." The more casual you sound, the more devastating it is. The psychological power behind this response. Rude people operate on a very simple formula. They throw an insult, you react emotionally, they feel powerful. But when you respond with effortless dismissal, you break their entire system. You take away their reward. You remind them that their words hold zero weight in your world. 7. You seem really dedicated to making a fool of yourself. Some people just can't help themselves. They live for drama, conflict, and pointless arguments. It's like they wake up every morning, look in the mirror and think, "How can I embarrass myself today?" This comeback is brutal because it flips the script. They thought they were making you look bad, but now you've just exposed the reality. They're only embarrassing themselves. And the worst part, they don't even realize it. Why this response? Hits hard. It forces self-reflection, even if they won't admit it. When someone is being rude, they expect you to be defensive or upset. But this line makes them stop and think, "Wait, am I actually making a fool of myself?" Even if their ego won't let them admit it, the seed has been planted. It shifts the attention back on them. Instead of defending yourself, you've now made them the center of attention in the worst way possible. If others are around, they'll start noticing how ridiculous this person is acting. Now, the rude person is forced to either backpedal or double down on their foolishness, which only proves your point. It puts you in control. You're not angry. You're not flustered. You're calm, observant, and calling them out in a way that makes them look like the fool, not you. And the best part, you're doing it without breaking a sweat. How to use this in real life. At work, imagine a co-worker keeps interrupting you during a meeting, rolling their eyes or making snarky comments. Instead of getting frustrated, you pause, look at them, and say with a slight smirk, "You seem really dedicated to making a fool of yourself." And then you move on like they don't exist. Now they either sit there in awkward silence or try to defend themselves, which only makes them look worse. With a toxic friend or family member, a so-called friend keeps throwing passive-aggressive insults your way, trying to get under your skin. Maybe they say something like, "Wow, you actually did something right for once." You don't flinch. You just chuckle and say, "You seem really dedicated to making a fool of yourself." And then you keep enjoying your day while they sit there, realizing they just played themselves. With a stranger or online troll, someone's being obnoxious in public or on social media, trying to drag you into their nonsense. Instead of engaging, you hit them with, "You seem really dedicated to making a fool of yourself. Keep up the hard work." Then you either walk away or log off, leaving them to deal with the weight of their own stupidity. The psychology behind this response. Most rude people don't actually think they're being foolish. They think they're being clever, dominant, or winning the interaction. But when you call out their behavior for what it really is, you force them to face an uncomfortable truth. They're embarrassing themselves, and everyone can see it. That's what makes this so effective. It doesn't just shut them down, it makes them second-guess themselves every time they try to act like a fool again. And that's real power. At the end of the day, dealing with rude people isn't about out-insulting them, it's about outclassing them. You don't need to raise your voice, you don't need to argue, you don't even need to take them seriously, because here's the truth. Disrespect only works when you let it get to you, but when you stay calm, throw back a sharp response, and walk away like their words meant nothing, that's when they feel the sting. That's when they realize they wasted their energy trying to bring you down, only to end up embarrassing themselves. So the next time someone disrespects you, remember, you have the power to make them regret it, not by stooping to their level, but by making it clear that their words are meaningless to you. And once they realize that, you've already won.